It's Thursday, the 24th of February, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
All right, 5 stories in 5 minutes. They are all big stories today, Sean. Starting with this one, Rio Tinto, Australian miner, has posted the biggest profit in Australian corporate history and will pay out the biggest dividend ever. Great news for investors.
Yes, some very happy shareholders around the place this morning, I would imagine. The near $30 billion profit for last year was the best in the miner's 149-year history, and the group will pay out $23 billion in final and special dividends. That much money has never been paid out before by any company. If you add all the dividends that Rio paid out for last year, it's yielding close to 10%, which is quite phenomenal. Now, higher iron ore prices and demand propelled the result. Rio has certainly struggled with its reputation during the past couple of years, but not really with its bottom line. Now, you're right in saying, Michael, it's the biggest corporate profit ever, but only in Australian dollars. In US dollar terms, which is how miners announce their results because most of the commodities are priced in US dollars, there was one bigger back in 2011, BHP did.
Okay, big story. Story number 2 today, Sean. Whenever you say wages growth, kind of people automatically think about how much money they're taking home. But there's more to it than that. And in the world of economics and interest rates, it is really important because the Reserve Bank wants wages to be growing at 3% before hitting the interest rate button, but they're not there yet.
That's right. Wages are growing at just a touch below that level, notwithstanding all the labour shortages companies are complaining about. The Bureau of Statistics figures yesterday show that wages rose 0.7% during the December quarter and 2.5% for the year, which is just a touch more than the Reserve Bank had forecast. There's no doubt wages are on the move, particularly in jobs with specific skills. So if you want a pay hike, go into accommodation and food services or maybe retail. What's all this mean in terms of rate rises? Well, people who thought a rate rise would occur as early as May would have been somewhat disappointed with the wages data yesterday. But at the moment, the preconditions for a rate rise are falling into place. Underlying inflation at 2.6%, wages growth at 2.5% to 3%, the unemployment rate at 4.2% and falling. It's easy to see why many economists think interest rates will rise later this year, not next.
Okay, story number 3, Sean, and all anyone's talking about on the global stage at the moment is the crisis in Europe, and countries around the globe, including Australia, have introduced sanctions on Russia after President Vladimir Putin ordered troops to invade 2 breakaway territories in eastern Ukraine.
Yes, Prime Minister Scott Morrison yesterday announced sanctions against Russian banks and members of the Federation Security Council, which should hinder financing of the Putin government. Travel bans will also be applied, and Ukrainian visas into Australia will be fast-tracked. Now, the Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has spoken to the heads of the big 4 banks, asking them to be alert of suspicious activities. Mr. Morrison said Russia was behaving like thugs and bullies. He said all the signs out of Russia suggested it would fully invade Ukraine within days. One thing I would note, though, Australia's sanctions, as well as Japan's sanctions, the European Union sanctions, the US sanctions, are not particularly heavy-handed at this point. It's a small step forward in terms of sanctions, not a big one.
Okay. Story number 4, Sean, and Domino's Pizza, which is one of our favourite companies to talk about, released its results yesterday and said food inflation is on the rise. I'll have to get you to explain that one to me. But good news for consumers, the prices of pizzas won't rise.
Well, yes, it's good news for consumers, but not necessarily for shareholders. And Domino's share price fell more than 14% yesterday. So CEO Don May came out yesterday and said that higher food prices, say cheese and meats particularly, were flowing through to the bottom line. Staff shortages were also hurting the company. But instead of asking customers to pay more for pizza to make up for the increase in costs, Domino's will bring out a new range of higher priced premium products, which presumably have a much higher profit margin. So if you want a premium pizza going forward, you'll have to pay an extra $3.45. Domino's Japanese business has been one of the best parts of the business in recent years. That's struggling at the moment. After lockdowns, people went out for dinner rather than ordering in. The European business has been hit by higher energy costs. In Australia, apart from the higher food costs, it's also facing a revitalised Pizza Hut. Now, Domino's share price is down almost 50% since its peak last year.
All right, and final story today, Sean, is really a pretty horrific one out of the United States. Some alarming statistics about gun crime.
Yes, gunshots have surpassed car crashes as the leading cause of death by trauma in the US for the first time, according to a report in The Times. The US has reported a surge in violent crime and suicide rates in recent months. Gun deaths have been rising, though, since 2011, while road accident deaths have been falling. Now, the FBI reported a 29% surge in gun murders last year to 21,500. That's the highest number since records began. And a report by surgeons in New York State suggests more than 1.4 million years of potential life are lost annually to gun crime and violence. Surely that's enough to do something about gun laws.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? All right, that's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 24th of February, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if you'd like something with a bit more detail, then you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.